Welcome everyone to Property Portfolio Solutions webinar entitled Fixing Your Credit Blemishes. And tonight we've got a very special guest, a lovely Victoria Costa, who's going to take over shortly, who's an expert in this area. She runs Credit Fix Solutions, a firm specifically around fixing people's credit problems and what have you. And I think, without trying to say anything else, I'm going to hand over to Victoria and she's going to take over, and away you go, Victoria. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Lovely to be here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along. So I'm just going to quickly make sure I'm presenting. And so I pin myself, don't I? And then...
Yes, pin yourself and then go to you are presenting.
Says Jeff Banks is presenting. I can't.
Oh, idiot, better stop sharing. How is that? There you go.
Sharing. Sharing's caring, Jeff.
Yeah.
Now, my entire screen. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen in a second. And what I want to go through today is, can you all see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yep.
Yep, fantastic. So, obviously talking to mum and dad investors and potentially a few brokers in the room. Usually we would do more complicated presentations on credit reporting for finance brokers. Mainly we deal with finance brokers across Australia, and we help them with their education when it comes to credit reporting. And then we help their clients to fix their credit reports so that they can go on and get, fantastic interest rates and all the rest of it. But today's presentation is a little bit different because I just wanted everyone to understand what the major components are to understanding your credit report, where to get a credit report from, and really how to maintain a great credit score. So we're just going to look at what a credit report looks like and what a credit report and score is. And then I'm just going to take you through 5 top tips that I reckon will help you protect your credit score and report moving forward. So just a quick disclaimer, this is for information purposes. I hate this slide, but our lawyers say that we have to put it in there. We are a law firm as well. And just so you know a little bit about me, who's talking, I've been running Credit Fix Solutions since 2014. I started the business in my son's bedroom. I was currently living in a housing commission unit, and I quit my job because I was never seeing my son. As a single mum, that was really, really hard. I'd been working for a credit repair firm for a few years, but I didn't like the fact that they charged upfront because credit repair is never guaranteed. So if they were charging money up front, even though we didn't know whether 100% we were going to actually fix that consumer's credit report. So 3 years of that, and I was basically done. I was exhausted, 12-hour days, and I gave it up, and I just started my own little credit repair company, which has a strict, no result, no fee policy. Started that in Western Sydney, good old Parramatta. And now we're a national firm, and we've got thousands of finance brokers referring to us across the country. So we do great work. And yeah, so that's who you're listening to today. And so basically just we want to look firstly, what is a credit report? So I understand a lot of you may understand what a credit report is, but what does it contain? It contains information such as your personal details. If you have applied jointly to a loan, so husband and wife, for example, or your credit cards, your personal loans, your mortgages are now being listed for 24 months repayment history. And we're going to look at a credit report in a minute, so don't worry. Any defaults or other credit infringements, so that's where you've been late by more than 60 days on a loan. For example, you've been through hardship, you haven't paid your credit card for 3 months, you haven't contacted your credit provider, they will potentially list a default on your credit report, and they're actually on there for 5 years. And we're seeing things like a $250 default with a phone company stopping, a mum and dad from buying a property. So it is pretty serious stuff. Any applications you've made will be on your credit report. If you've gone into bankruptcy or a Part 9 bankruptcy, which is also called a debt agreement, they're also listed on your credit report. Repayment history information, as I said, and any commercial applications. So if you run a business and you have any business loan facilities, they're also listed on your credit report. And the new thing that came into Australia a few years ago, and we were actually last out of, even New Zealand beat us with credit scoring. It was a bit crazy, but now in Australia we're seeing everyone with credit scores. The credit scores with Equifax range from around 0 to 1200. Some reports go from, say, for example, 300 to 850. But as long as you're sitting at around 700 and up, most major lenders and banks, for example, deem you as a safe bet when you're going for a loan with them. We're seeing consumers come to us with scores under 700, and they actually can't access the best interest rates. So our job is to remove blemishes from the credit report itself, and that then makes this score jump up. So they may go from 500 to 700, they may go from 400 to 650. It all depends on what other data, they actually have on their credit report other than the blemishes that we're removing. So for those of you who maybe haven't seen a credit report, now we are a subscriber with Equifax. This is one of their sample credit reports. They used to be called Vida, but they're now called Equifax. So this is what a credit report looks like. And a bit later on, I'll give you the websites to go to obtain your credit reports. So this is just a sample for training purposes. This isn't a real person because that would be completely against the Privacy Act. So Lena Thomas isn't real, but just to show you what it looks like. So, and this is a paid report. If you go and get your free credit report from Equifax, it's not going to give you a credit score. So you will not see a comprehensive credit score on a free report. You have to pay for it, unfortunately. These businesses, it's not a government agency, it's a private enterprise, and they're looking to make money like every other private enterprise. So they make you pay. At the moment, it's around $79.95 for a paid report with Equifax. We suggest to go for the subscription service, which is approximately $10 a month. So although it seems a bit because it's $120 a year, you actually get 2 reports biannually, and they give you an updated credit score every 30 days, and they alert you if anything gets put onto your report. So it's better value for money. So this is subscription service is what we suggest to get with Equifax. We have nothing to do with Equifax. I'm just suggesting this. You can also go to one of the other credit reporting agencies, and we'll have a look at those soon as well, so you understand that arena. Your first page of your credit report will contain your score. This particular person who doesn't exist, Lena, has a very bad score. If she was sitting at 700, for example, that would be deemed a good score. Don't worry if you're not up to 1100, 1200. We see, hundreds of reports every week, and most people sit between the 700 to 850 mark. Very rare do we see scores over. That's just normal. So don't worry. As long as you're kind of over, or as long as you're in the green, you're okay with most lenders, but you can talk to your finance broker about that. You also have the score key contributing factors. Now, this is indicating why Equifax's algorithms are giving you the score of 80. So here is basically a summary of why Lena has a score of 80. And red X's are bad, green ticks are good. She's just got red X's everywhere. So she's got default information. She's got public adverse information. The type of inquiry she's going for aren't deemed, low risk loans, for example. And we'll look into that a little bit more soon too. But yeah, basically she's got a low score because she's got lots of negative data on her credit report. So they're not two separate things. The report and the score is calculated by the credit reporting agency, given the data that they have on you on your credit report. So it's one and the same thing. Vida score 1.1, by the way, is where Equifax or Vida thinks that your score is going to sit in 12 months' time. It's a guesstimate. So they're saying that Lena, in 12 months' time, because she seems to maybe start to behave herself with her finance applications and so on and so forth, and financial management, it's actually going to go up to 314. And here we have the headlines, and this is where you'll see if you have any active accounts. So how I was saying about the repayment history information, up until a couple of years ago, we didn't have repayment history information on credit reports. But with the changes with legislation to comprehensive credit reporting, most lenders are now reporting 24 months of repayment history information on all our consumer debt. So if you've got a consumer credit card, if you've got a personal loan, if you've got a mortgage, most of the credit providers will be listing 24 months repayment history. So you'll see all your active accounts on your credit report. You'll also see any negative data. Now, negative data is the data that's obviously pulling your score down. If you have it, I really hope you don't. I'm sure you're fine. But if you have defaults, that's where you've been severely late on repaying a loan, they will default you. They're on your report for 5 years. You can see here, RHI, that's repayment history information. And don't worry, I've got an ebook to give away to everyone as well at the end. So you don't need to remember everything. And Jeff is recording this presentation as well. Insolvencies and actions. So this is where, for example, if you've had a company that's been wound up, then that's going to be listed on your credit report as well. Business relationships and any disqualified directorships. The report is split into consumer and commercial. So we'll see here, we've got the type of accounts that she's got, if they're closed, if they're open, any business relationships. It'll also list all of your identity details and your addresses. Just a word of advice as well, if they've spelt your name slightly wrong, or we've had clients that have come to us saying, look, I'm a man and they've got me down as female, don't panic, because when banks and lenders are looking at you, they're checking the report, but they're not going to decline you because Equifax has done something wrong. So don't worry. But if something on here is a little bit incorrect with your personal information, you can just jump onto Equifax's website and you can attach your credit report and request a correction. And within 30 days, they'll come back and they'll, amend your gender, they'll amend your driver's license, for example, or they'll amend your addresses. They might ask you for supporting documents, but you'll have that all fixed up if you feel the need to, but it's not necessary for loan applications, so don't worry. So here, as I said, it's split between consumer and commercial. Here we've just got all of the, Lenas inquiries. We can see here, in a 1 or 2 year period, not very many inquiries. I used to be in lending before I fell into credit repair about 12, 13 years ago. I used to be in home loan finance, and I used to approve home loans via a mortgage originator. And the rule was, and I don't think this has changed very much, is as long as you've only got about 5 to 10 inquiries in a 12-month period, that you're okay. But you really don't want to be having more than 5 to 10 inquiries in a 12-month period. So be really mindful if you're going online and things like that. Check the terms and conditions, check that they're not doing a credit check before you apply for finance. And maybe just, I have a rule, if I want to get something, I kind of think about it for 24 hours and then go back. But that's just my opinion and trying to proactively protect my credit report. And then you've got the commercial inquiry. So if you don't run a business or you don't have any business type loan applications, or you haven't inquired for any business type loans, you won't have commercial inquiries. Now here we can see, this is what we call a black mark or a blemish. This is a court action. A court action is similar to a default. So say you had a dentist bill. We've had this before. Someone went to the dentist and got beautiful veneers done for 10 grand, did a runner and didn't pay. Now that dentist isn't a credit provider. So the dentist can't list a default against you for 5 years. But what they can do is they can go to their local court and they can lodge a statement of claim, and then they have to give you 30 days to pay. If you don't pay it, they will then list a court action against you, which is the same thing. So lenders, when they're looking at your report, if they see a court action or a default, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get a really good interest rate. It could be, we've seen, as I said at the start, we deal with thousands of finance brokers across the country. They're coming to us, someone may just have one court action listed against them, and they're going to pay double with their investment property interest rate, for example. So, people do come to us and say, look, I need to remove this. Yes, you're going to charge me a fee if I'm successful, but it's going to be on my report for another 3 years. I'm going to save 120,000 on my new investment property loan, for example. So, but they're on for 5 years. So they're listed on a date, and then they drop off. As long as they're paid, a court action will drop off 5 years after. Now, with court actions, if you don't pay, in New South Wales, for example, court actions are enforceable for a period, I believe it's 10 to 12 years. I'll have to check with our lawyers. There's around 10 to 12 years. So if it's not paid, they can then enforce a judgment again. So, and it accrues interest and it accrues legal fees. So debts like this can really follow you around like a bad smell for a long, long time. So I do suggest, if you've got something like this, or you feel like you're going to fall behind with something, is just get in touch with them and start a payment plan before this happens, because it can go on and on for a long time, and really affects a lot of our clients, severely affected by this when it comes to getting finance. Here we've got a default. So this is what a default will look like. It might also say, they might call it a overdue account. Overdue is the same as a default. Again, listed for 5 years. I'll show you the amount, the date was listed, and they're on for 5 years. Now, that's even if you then pay it. So with Lena, our pretend person, the default was listed on 23rd of May, 2013. Now, if she calls even on the 24th of May, 2013 and pays it in full, it does not have to be removed. It will simply be marked as paid. A credit provider, as per legislation, which is what our law firm negotiate for our clients, a credit provider only has to remove a default if it's been listed in error. And for consumer defaults, that's under the credit reporting code, if you'd like to go and have a look. It's very boring reading. I kind of know it back to front, but if you're having trouble sleeping one night, feel free to go and read some legislation. It does help. So this is just to show you, obviously this is a bad score. I've got another example with a good score, but it wouldn't show you what all the negative data looks like. So this is very bad. Don't worry. I'm sure your report looks nothing like this. It's a terrible credit report. Then you've got, commercial here. Again, it's always split between consumer and commercial. She's had a default here with a supplier or a lender, and they've listed a default here. If you see clear out, not watched, a clear out by law is listed on our credit reports for 7 years, which is pretty crazy. So they're actually listed for 7. Clear out means that they think that the loan was taken out. Basically, that person was dodgy. So they took a loan out and didn't even make one repayment. So they list it as a clear out. We rarely see those anymore. And that's about it. So going back to the presentation, we've had a look at the report. So hopefully that helps you with understanding it. And I'll just get into the 5 top tips that I've got for you this evening. And hopefully you can just take this away and just educate your family and just get in front of this. It's really important to be proactive, because even just one declined inquiry on your credit report, say if you go online and you think you can do it yourself, or you go to your bank and you think you can do it yourself, if you haven't checked all your credit reports first, potentially then if you try to go for loan number 2 through a broker, try and do it the smarter way, you could then get knocked back because you've had one, failed inquiry. So, and don't freak out. This is probably a lot to take in. I know, I'm sorry. I've just been doing it for so long. And I feel that all of this information is really, really important. There are actually 4 credit reporting bureaus in Australia. Now, don't ask me why. I don't know why. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. I believe we should just have one. Why we've got 4? It's the same in America. It's the same in the UK. It's not regulated by government. These are just private enterprises. But just start with Equifax. So if you're going to go and get a copy of your credit report, just start with an Equifax personal report. If you have a company, then you can pay for a company report. I'm sure many of you, I don't know what the audience is exactly out there, but for most of you, you can just start with a personal Equifax credit report. You can get a free report from Equifax. Illion, which used to be Vita, as I said before, Illion is Dun & Bradstreet, which is also a debt collection agency. You can also get a free personal report with Illion. Then you have Experian, where you can get a free personal report. Creditor Watch is just for companies. So personal reports, you have a personal credit report with Equifax, Illion, and Experian. If you have a business and a company, you then have a company report with Equifax, Illion, and Creditor Watch. And this always really scares our clients when they come on board to us for some information. You can actually have different information on your different credit reports. So we've seen someone with a clean Equifax credit report. They've gone and applied for a loan, for investment property, home loan, whatever they're doing. It's got knocked back. They said, no, you've got a default on your credit report. No, I don't. I've got a clean credit report. Did you check your Illion and Experian? They've gone and got their Illion and Experian, and lo and behold, there's a default on one of the other reports. So if you feel you've been through a life event, you've been through tough times, it's been COVID, just be proactive. I know it's a pain. You know, we have this conversation with 100 people every day who call us for help when it comes to credit reporting. Just make the effort. I'll give you the websites at the end so you can go and grab your credit reports. Again, we have nothing to do with the credit reporting agencies. It's completely free to get your personal report. You won't get a credit score, okay, but you'll at least get your credit report. And that's the most important part, because your score is just dictated by what's on your credit report anyway. So it's really just most important to see what exactly do you have, what data do you have listed on your credit reports. And if there's something on there, you know, you can potentially get it fixed or removed. So that's fine. So make the effort. I'll give you the websites at the end. Company reports are pretty expensive. I don't know why. Equifax are charging $200-300. I think Illion is like 400 or something. It can get pretty expensive. You can just create an account with Creditor Watch and get a company report, which is good. If you're just a sole trader, don't worry, you wouldn't have a company report. Top tip number 2, understand levels of risk with your loan inquiries. Okay, so this was something I thought was really important, especially since repayment history information has moved in. People seem to be more active during COVID. Maybe we're all just bored and sitting at home and inquiring for things. But understanding the levels of risk with your loan inquiries is really, really important. A lot of people come to us because they've inquired, for example, buy now, pay later schemes several times over the weekend because they figured, and look, I totally get it. If you think about it logically, using a buy now, pay later scheme makes sense financially. If I want that designer handbag, it's smarter for me to pay that off over 3 months. Logically, that makes sense. It's not logical with regards to the credit reporting agency and how they deem that sort of inquiry. So to Equifax, just to take an example that we mostly use, Equifax is an example. Their algorithms and I don't know exactly how they work, but the algorithms say, okay, a buy now, pay later inquiry is deemed high risk, right? Versus a home loan inquiry. So when I did my home loan inquiry last year, I rented my whole life. I'm just very blessed with buying my first home, but I did a home loan inquiry. My score only dropped by 20 points. A couple of months later, it was actually up by 80 points. So there's good debt and bad debt, right? We all know that. So buy now, pay later schemes are deemed bad debt, and they really, really pull down a credit score. And I just wanted to share with you how much this actually affects someone. So, and I'll tell you a secret. It's not a secret, but this is actually a staff member of mine. You don't know who it is, so it's fine. Everything's scribbled out, personal information. She's young. She's looking to buy an investment property with her husband, newlyweds. And so she checked her credit report because, you know, she'd then come to work with us and said, oh, you know, I'll get my credit report. I want you to check it. Now her score was 623, right? Which isn't bad. But what was bad was here, she's got red X's, you know, the type of consumer credit applied for. So what they're saying is that if you've gone for 3 home loans in the last 4 years, you'll get a green tick. But if you've gone for personal loans, credit cards, and buy now, pay later scheme, you're going to get X's. And if we scroll through her report, you'll see, and she's very young, so, you know, she's hardly had any inquiries. But here you go. I'm not trying to name names. I'm not trying to name and shame, right? There's lots of buy now, pay later schemes out there. But in this case, she had 1 Zip Money inquiry. The rest is kind of fine, right? Like a phone contract, twice in 2 years. That's fine, and a couple of personal loans. So really very minimal inquiries. We removed this inquiry for her, right? So it takes a few weeks to remove things, defaults, inquiries, whatever it might be. Look at the score jump, 699. So nothing else wrong with her report whatsoever. She's basically a baby, like early 20s, like going for, first loan, 623 to 699. That's one buy now, pay later inquiry removal. So think of that in reverse. Say if you're sitting at her original score, 623, you're kind of just okay for the best interest rates and the best lenders. You're kind of just okay. If you were then to do one buy now, pay later inquiry, your score could drop down to 540. And where are you sitting then? A broker's going to come to us and go, I can't do anything with this. It's sitting at 540. I can't get this loan across the line. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're aware that all your inquiries have a level of risk when it comes to your credit score. Okay, so if you really don't need the handbag, and again, I'll go back to my 24-hour rule that I've applied for myself personally. If you really don't need it, have a think about it, maybe just save up and then go and get the bag. It's probably not going anywhere. The number of inquiries also affect your credit score. The best story I've ever had, and I tell this story, it's a true story. One of my brother's friends, and this is 20 years ago now, mind you. I'm showing my age now. But he was, late teens, early 20s, and wanted to apply for a home loan with his then very brand new wife. So he went online and did I think it was something ridiculous, like 150 inquiries. He actually couldn't go on the home loan with his wife. She had to go on by herself. Now, luckily, she worked for CBA, and so she got a good deal with them and they approved it. But he couldn't get his loan. So be mindful that every time, and I know how easy it is to grab your phone, go online and apply for something, don't do it, because even just submitting an inquiry like that without reading the fine print or terms and conditions, they do actually have a right, even with a verbal authority, to go and check your credit report, and then boom, depending on the type of finance you've just inquired for, your credit score is going to go down. And it does recover, so don't panic if you've done that recently. It just takes maybe a few months to recover. And again, you can sign up for the Equifax or the Alien subscription service, and every month you'll get an updated credit score. Okay, so don't panic if you've done that recently. It's okay, it can fix itself. And just tip number 3, how do I improve my credit score? Lower your credit card limits. That doesn't improve your credit score, but when a lender is looking at your credit file and they can see that, you've only got 2 credit cards at a $2,000 limit. And again, this is just information. Speak to your broker, speak to Jeff about this. It does look better. For example, if you've got 2 $10,000 credit cards, but you're only using $2,000 on each, it's going to look worse if you've got $20K worth of credit card debt. So just reduce it before you apply. I did the same thing for my home loan. Had 2 credit cards I used for the business, but I wasn't really using them. So I just reduced them down to the, $3,000 limit that I could reduce them to. And the lender had, no issues with that, which was great. Limiting your number of applications, as we just spoke about, making sure you pay your credit card off full each month. Now that comes back to, just basically you just want the lender to roll out the red carpet, right? So if you've got the credit card you're using maybe for, small purchases during the month, try and wipe that off at the end of the month so they can see great credit management. It also comes back to repayment history information. With repayment history information as well, you have 15 days from the due date to contact your credit provider before they'll put negative information on your report. Okay, so if you think you're going to miss a repayment, just get in touch with them. We suggest that you put that in writing to the customer support team. You should usually have an email address on your last statement, and just email them and say, hi, I'm not going to be able to pay this month. Can I please apply for temporary financial hardship? Now, that way they cannot report negative data against you or report that you've missed those months' repayments. They might want some documents from you. You need to obviously action that and be proactive and get the documents back. But at least if you're in a financial assistance arrangement, it won't affect your repayment history information, which will in turn affect your credit score. Paying your bills on time. My mum's been telling me that for years. Obviously, that's important. Making repayments on time, talking about the RHI. Consolidating loans, is more so to do with just money management again. So understanding the key areas of your report. So just to kind of drum in what we've gone over, inquiries, check your inquiries. If you've got a lot of buy now, pay laters on there, can you try and remove those? Do you really need to make those 3 inquiries in the next 6 months? Okay, inquiries are really affecting your credit report. Defaults, overdue listings. They can be removed, but only if found to be listed in error as per legislation. Okay, so you can't just say, no, I want to pay it now, remove it. They can't just remove it because you've now paid. Okay, it has to be that there is an error leading up to the time that the default was listed. So it's going to be historic, right? Retrospectively that you legally remove a default. Court action, I don't know, you haven't paid school fees for the last 2 years. Again, these can be removed, but they are considered very serious by a potential lender, and potentially you can't get the best interest rates, for example, for your next finance application. Repayment history information, just make sure you understand the due dates for your credit cards, personal loans, your mortgages, that most of them are being reported on our credit reports. There's a few non-bank lenders who don't report, but most of them, I think it's like 80% are reporting now. So just make sure you know your repayment dates and you're paying on time. I'm so paranoid about this. I actually pay my credit card a week before the due date. So yeah, you can be like that or just be normal and set up direct debits. Direct debits are really, really important. Don't just wait for the statement. Set up your facility, understand when your repayments are due, go and set up a recurring direct debit. It's the best way to do that. ASIC activity. So for those of you who maybe have companies, if you have had a company that's been wound up, it's going to, even though you've moved on from there, for example, and started a new business, or you've brought the company out of liquidation, now everything's fine, that will be listed as a notification on your credit report. Okay, so that can affect your ability to obtain finance too. Now, those can't be removed. And that's the same for bankruptcies. They can't be removed too. There's an annulment, asterisk kind of applies. One of the credit reporting agencies will remove a bankruptcy part 10 with an annulment, but mostly the other ones don't, even if it's been annulled. So those are just, key areas of your report that you should really, really, really get to know. And this is the part where you now need to action something. And I'm happy to share these slides with Jeff too. If anybody wants a copy, they can contact Jeff. These are the websites you want to go to. All right, these are the correct websites where you get your free personal credit reports. If you want company reports, as I said earlier, they're different. They're really expensive. We have a solution for that as well for you as well, if you just want an Equifax company report. Otherwise, you can go to Equifax and Illion and pay a few $100 for company reports. But just for your free personal report, you can go to Experian, Equifax, and Illion and go and grab a copy. These are the websites here. So experian.com.au, mycreditfile.com.au, Credit Simple, or just type in illion.com.au. Be careful if you just go and Google, as I do. If you just go and Google free credit report, because you might see the free credit score websites come up. I won't name names, but they annoy me every day of my life. And they say, get your free credit score today. And they're on the TV and they're on the radio. They are not a credit reporting agency. They are a company set up to buy data from the credit reporting agencies. They are then on-selling our data to lenders. So then when you go and get your free credit score, they then send that, oh, we've had an inquiry from Victoria. She's getting her free credit score. I've tried it. Just don't even believe me. Just go and do it yourselves. Free credit score website. And the next day I had an email going, Suncorp has conditionally approved you for a loan. So yeah, look, they're just buying our data, and they're not your actual credit report. And your credit report is what lenders are looking at. Don't freak out about all of the different CRBs. Start with Equifax. It's the easiest. Go onto their website, takes you 5 minutes. Alien is easy too. Experian, they want driver's license and things like that. So, and that's if you have been good the past few years. I'm not saying people are bad. I'm just saying, like, you know, if you've been on track with everything. If you feel there's been a problem, we do strongly suggest to go and spend the time to get all 3 personal credit reports. Because as I said before, the scary thing is that we can have a default or adverse information on one report and not the others. Okay, so just before you apply for any finance. And those are my top 5 tips. So don't worry about remembering it all. Happy to share the slides. Or if you'd like a free ebook that I've written over the past couple of years on credit reporting, which explains all of that and even how to fix your credit yourself for free, you can, you know, send us an email or jump on our website, and happy to give you a copy of that. And that's it from me, Jeff.
Excellent, Victoria. Just let me have the screen back. Thank you. And I'll go. No, I won't go present now, because what we're going to do is open up the forum for questions. I've got one before we start. The telcos are notorious for putting black marks on people's names. You said they had to wait 60 days. You miss a payment, from what I've seen, they automatically put a black mark against your name.
No, well, yes, but no. A default is different. So repayment, telcos can't list repayment history information. So if you've missed a month's repayment with a phone company, they're not allowed to report repayment history information. So they're not deemed a credit provider per se. It's only banks and lenders. So they're not listing it straight away. It does have to be 60 days. They're not listing it straight away for a default. So a default that's listed on for 5 years is not the same as repayment history information. But yes, if it was say if it was, I don't know, NAB Bank, and you missed your mortgage repayment, then they can list 1 month's negative repayment history information, but it's not as bad as a default. A default, they have to give you a section 6Q, a section 21D. They have to do the section 6Q when you're more than 1 payment late, right? So it's usually 30 days on a home loan or a credit card, because we pay monthly. And then they have to do a section 21D notice and give you a minimum of 15 days before they list the default. But say if you've missed 1 month's repayment, which you're right, they can, but not telco, it's only on there for 2 years. So if you get your credit report and you missed 1 repayment at the beginning of 2020, right, because of COVID, you know, we've all suffered. It's been horrible. You miss 1 repayment. That's only going to show until, hang on, my maths is terrible. I'm good at credit repair, bad at maths. That's only going to show, until early 2022.
All right. So,
and then it gets too old. Yeah.
So what does Credit Fix Solutions do for me? How are you going to help me if I've got a blemish on my credit?
I have a magic wand. No, I don't. No, I really don't. No, look, what we do is, and I just set it up to help people. So if you've been through, and you might be able to handle this yourselves because you are savvy and you're looking to invest, right? So you understand investment, you understand finance. What we're doing to help, and I'm sure this isn't any of you, we're trying to help people who have been through a life event, domestic violence victims, cancer, divorce, COVID, whatever, and they've got these black marks and they're just trying to move forward and they just want to go and buy a property and they've got themselves back on track, right? So it's not like they're in hardship. We can't take people on who can't afford our services, okay? I mean, even though we're not charging unless we get a result, we're still going to charge, for example, $1,500 to remove a default off your credit report. So we'll say to you, Jeff, you know, are you working at the moment? Can you afford our services? This is something you can do yourself, sort of thing. But a lot of our clients don't want to do it themselves because they kind of don't want to deal with what's happened in the past. You know, like they've been through that. It's bringing back all those emotions. They go, no, you just deal with it. And so we do. And then if we're successful, they pay us. So, but I'm sure your credit score is amazing.
Mine might be, but if it's not, how much are you going to be able to fix it?
We can fix it as much as the data that is negative is listed in error, and that's as per legislation. So we have our law firm as well, Credit Fix Lawyers, and it's a legal argument, and we do that in writing. So, for example, just so it makes bit more sense. Sorry, I know it's a lot to take in. We will have a client that calls us and says, I have a default with let's just say Citibank. Sorry, Citibank, but I've got a default with Citibank. It was a credit card. I went through hardship. Nobody helped me there. It's listed there in 2020. It's not going to come off till 2025. Can you help me remove that? To remove that, what we do is we go, and this is something everyone can do. Just as I said, a lot of our clients just don't want to deal with it. They're either too busy or it gives them anxiety or whatever. We go to the credit provider and we request all the documents leading up to the time that the default was listed. Now, it's different for court actions and it's different for inquiries, and that's different for repayment history information. But just speaking about a default, you need to go and get the information leading up to the time that the default was listed, because you have to prove that the default itself was listed in error before it was listed. So if the default's listed and then you pay it after, that doesn't matter. It's what's happened before the default was listed. So it's about those documents. So
what happens if I win the court case?
It's not a court case. It's just a default with the credit provider. And
but if I was in disagreement with the credit provider, and they take me to court and I win, the blemish state.
That's a statement of claim. It's not a default. Isn't a court matter. It comes under the credit reporting code. A court action, yes, they're different.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I see Ian's raised his hand. You want to unmute yourself, Ian, and ask your question?
Hello all. How are you?
Good, mate.
Scenario. There'll be no perfect answer for this, but just if there's marks or blemishes on a company report or a personal report, how many different scenarios, this is broad base, are there sort of 10 different scenarios, or are there only 3 different scenarios, or is it infinite to remove marks on, say, a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day basis?
It's infinite, I would say.
I'm an engineer and I always try to classify,
and that makes perfect sense. But what I found is that because we're all unique, our credit reports are all unique. So every person is, do you know what I mean? Like, they send us our credit reports, so we help them get them. And then we have to ask the question that we ask to everyone is, tell us what happened.
Gotcha.
And everybody's story is different, which makes every case different.
So you got to basically like nitpick through every scenario.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Damn.
So what sort of success rate do you have, Victoria?
Well, we do numbers. I didn't used to when I was a little baby company, but now we've got bloody offices around the country. And I do business blueprint, as you know, Jeff. So it's like, make sure you do your numbers, do it all properly. Yeah. So we've got a spreadsheet where we record successes, not successes, how many removed, and so on and so forth. And mid last year, we had a review of the figures, and from January 19 till mid 2020, 87 point something% success.
Wow.
But that's because I'm not getting paid unless I get a result. So I teach my scenarios team, you don't take things on, because I don't want to waste anybody's time, mine, the clients, and we're dealing with a broker, right? So if we waste his or hers time, they're not going to bring us back another client. So we're only taking on the ones where we feel we've got grounds.
All right. And so if a broker brings you a client, at what point if you decide to take them on, between when they bring them to you and you decide to take them on, you're an empathetic sort of person like we are.
Yeah.
How much time do you spend before you decide to take something on?
Between speaking to the broker, getting the reports, speaking to the client, maybe 2 hours before we even get an application signed. Yeah.
So a lot of time.
Yeah, it can be pretty quick. Like what, Ian was saying before, like, what's your scenario? Is there a structure? Some clients have really, have been through really bad, tough times, and it shows on their reports. Whereas others might just have like one default and we go, yeah, okay, you've got your grounds done. Let's go for it. Other people might have a company report with a commercial default, an Equifax personal report with repayment history information that's negative, and then an alien report with another default on it. Now, then we have to look at it holistically, which makes it a bit harder, but because, like you said, we're very focused on getting a result, and it's not going to financially benefit someone who's got that much negative information to remove, for example, just one default. It makes no sense because they still can't go to the better lenders. They still can't get the better interest rates. So then it makes it complex. So then we might look at, okay, when were the defaults listed? Do we start with the newer one? So at least, okay, that one's commercial, but it drops off next year. All right, well, that's okay because they're looking to buy next year. They haven't got their deposit together yet. So that's great. Let's just remove the newer ones and work backwards. So it's just, it's different for every single client, but 1 to 2 hours, it's not too bad.
Ian's raised his hand again. Sorry, I'm only going to ask one more question because it might
ask as many as you like.
It'll affect my credit report if I ask another one. What are the stickiest ones to remove in your expertise, and what are the sort of general AOK ones to remove?
Okay, so yep, totally get notes. Very good question. Commercial defaults are very difficult to remove because do you run a business? Have you got a company?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like when you sign on the dotted line for a business loan, you've basically got no rights. It's not like consumer where they have to give you financial assistance. They have to give you warning notices. If we miss one repayment on a business car loan, they can list a default the next day without even giving us warning. So they're the hardest because the legislation that protects us is so limited.
Yep.
It's literally if you've received a cracked window from your window supplier and they've listed a default. If you haven't been invoiced by your ice cream supplier correctly, those are the two. So with consumer, they're easier because the credit reporting code is so amazing. It's got so many different sections. And when you can get across all of that and you can apply like maybe one of 100 sections to a consumer account, and your client's got a story too, right? Bearing in mind, we only take on people where we think we've got grounds. You put that all together and it does take a few weeks. It's usually 3 to 8 weeks to remove a default, sometimes up to 12, but they are not in a sense easier, but it's easier to find that needle in a haystack.
So if changing the subject for a second, if I've liquidated a company and so it was a voluntary liquidation, everyone got paid, I actually received some money out of it, that still ends up on my credit report?
Yes.
As a black mark? Well,
it depends on the lender you go to. It depends on how good your broker is and how much they know the products.
Well, see, that's interesting because we're talking to some clients who are looking to build up some equity by developing using companies. And when we get to a point, we'd like to liquidate those companies and take the money out as a liquidator's distribution rather than a dividend. So that'll be a liquidation of the company. Everyone will be paid. The shareholders will be getting a return, yet that's going to create an adverse thing so we'll need to tell our broker what we've done, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And usually you can go with usually just a second tier lender, maybe, I don't know, maybe a bank, maybe not, depends on your relationship with them, right? But your broker would know. Sometimes it's just a letter of explanation, this is what we did. And then that makes sense to the business banking, person, whoever's looking after it. But yeah, they do look bad. Like we have people coming to us with wind-ups, liquidations because they've been knocked back for finance.
Right. Okay. And there's nothing you can do about that?
No. They're just it's like the same thing as when you change your address for your company. It's just noted. It's an asset note forever and a day. Never. Don't. It's like, what does anybody do about ASIC? You can't.
Fair enough.
They're just there. Even if you liquidated and then came out of liquidation, the fact that you've liquidated is just a note. It's a notation, ASIC notation, for 5 years. For 5 years.
Okay. Is there any other questions while we're here? You had your hand up again, did you, Ian? No. Okay. What I might do for a moment is I'm going to do a small piece of advertising.
Bring it home, Jeff.
Bring it home. Yes. Yep. Thank you, Victoria. What you've done for us has been amazing. tonight it opened up a whole heap of explanations to things that I had no idea how they worked. It sounds like you approach your clients' credit things the same way we approach our clients' investment needs. They're on the screen. I'm showing you our business model. Understanding your why. Victoria obviously spends a lot of time understanding her clients' why as well before she'll even undertake where she wants to go. Looking at your starting point, well, what Victoria's been talking about tonight has been particularly interesting to what we need to do with our clients' journeys to make sure that the journey is as smooth as possible, and potentially everybody understanding where their credit reports are, where their credit scores are, might very well become a part of our plan. I think it's absolutely going to become a part of our plan. Finding the right property for you, making sure that it's within the steps of the journey that you want to go, and then taking the thing right out of your hands, like Victoria was saying with her clients. They don't want to deal with old credit histories. A lot of people find investing in property just simply too hard. And Sean and I have created a business where we can do the whole thing for you. Find the property, get the property built, hand you the key, and then potentially find you someone who can manage it for you. So all you need to do is to sit back and watch the things grow. I think that was the last one of those, wasn't it? Yep. Thank you, Victoria, for your time tonight. It's
my pleasure.
Like our other one, it's going to be recorded. It'll be up on the website in a week or two. We haven't promoted the first one so much because I don't think people really wanted to look at Sean and my nose hairs so much.
That's rude.
Yeah, well, the video was pretty bad. Sean, would you like to say anything before we hang off?
Thanks heaps, Victoria. I reckon I'll be using your services soon enough.
You will not. You're just winding me up now. No, you're right.
Not at all.
It'd be funny if he was. Okay, guys, thanks very much for that, and look forward to the next one.